She's Rick, the critic, 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 Rick, the critic. When she come into your place, yo, you best not forget it. She gon' tell you how it is, cause she's Rick, the critic. When she all up in your city, yo, you best not forget it. Let you know if she like it and if she get with it. Let the whole world know and be the first to admit it. Let you know if she's good.
Hi, I'm Rick the Critic. Welcome. Thank you for allowing me to come into your house for another half hour today. And I promise you today a really kind of not exciting, but a little heart-wrenching. I'm talking to someone on the phone. We're talking about hospitals today. And we're talking about good hospital, a good hospital and a bad hospital. And the caller today was sharing with me earlier about some experience that she had in the hospital, and we're going to talk about that today. And I want you to call in and let me know what you think about it. So we're going to kind of vibe together. So just kind of, it's a little different show than normally, but just kind of work with me. Caller, is she on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, listen, I'm Rick the Critic, and now we were talking earlier about your experience at a hospital. Could you and we were talking about what was going on. Tell me, share with my viewers what happened. You went to I understand you went to the hospital. You went to the emergency, and what happened?
Yeah, I went to the emergency room because I'm a diabetic, and I also suffer from gastroparesis, which causes extreme abdominal pain. So a lot of times when I go in, I'm in a lot of pain, and I was yelling. I was not really yelling, but moaning because I was in pain. And the nurse came in, and she put her hand over my mouth. She put her hand
Wait a minute. Did you say the nurse put her hand over your mouth?
Yeah, she put her hand over my mouth to try to quiet me down.
It's to silence you?
Yes, she did.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm quite serious. She sure did.
It was a nurse it was just the nurse by herself. Wait a minute, what hospital was this? Because we don't want to go there. What's the name of this hospital?
I was visiting in Las Vegas, and it's called North Vista Hospital.
In Las Vegas?
In Las Vegas, Nevada, North Las Vegas, Nevada. And she also told me, she said, if you're not quiet, you won't get your medicine.
Wait a minute, hold it. Wait, she put her hand over your mouth. Now, you were in the emergency room or in the regular room?
I was in an emergency room.
Okay, and you were in pain and you were hollering. She put her hand over your mouth and then refused to give you medication?
Yes, she did. She said that if I wasn't quiet, she wasn't going to give it to me.
Are you?
The way she treated me was like I was a drug addict or something.
Was anyone else there? I mean, did anybody witness this?
There were two more people in the room with her. There was a male nurse and there was also another female nurse, and they never said anything. One just turned her head like she just really didn't want to be, take part in it, and the other guy, he just kind of just rolled with the punches.
Are you serious? This is in a hospital, because we've heard these horror stories before. I mean, I've talked to people that have had horror stories, but what you're telling me is that it's actually an assault. I mean, she put her hand over your mouth and tried to silence you, and then said to you that you could not have the medicine that you needed.
Actually, the order that it went in, first she said if I wasn't quiet, she wouldn't give me the medicine, and then she put her hand over my mouth. That's the order that it went in. So,
are you serious?
Yes.
Okay, so now, and all right, okay, so now you're probably, I'm sensing that you probably were terrified at this. I mean, you're sick, you're in the hospital, you can't do anything for yourself, and and then she comes in and tells you this. You got three people there, one that's looking down at the ground, the other one that is taking part with the nurse. This was a nurse?
Yes, this was a nurse.
All right, and so then, and so then what happened? Because I imagine you were probably terrified by then. So what happens?
I really, because I was by myself, I really didn't want to say anything. So when I got up to the floor, I told that they have a person that they call the patient's advocate. I told him I don't know how much anything, if he did anything at all. They said that they would rectify the situation. I'm not sure if they did it all. I just think that it's really sad that things like this happen. I tried to actually, when I was in the hospital, when I went to the floor, I called over to the police department, which is not even 3 minutes away, which is not even a good bit away.
Yeah, because you know this is a police. This is a police situation here, because now we're talking assault, and then we're talking about, when you're talking about withholding someone's medicine, that, you know what I'm saying, that's a threat. So
Yeah.
you know, that's clearly a police situation.
Oh, they wouldn't even come over there to file a report, and they told. When my boyfriend did come to the hospital, because I was there by myself, but when he did come and he came there, I asked him to go over there and try to file a report to try to get them to come over there, because they're not even, like I said, 3 minutes away. They're literally right next door. He came back and they said that they couldn't come over here, and they also informed him that people from over there call all the time. Like it was
The people from the hospital call all the time.
Well,
Call the police all the time.
Yeah, they file reports on the nurses, and I guess because they're so close, you know, maybe they have some type of rapport or some type of relationship.
Are you saying the police had a relationship with the hospital?
Yeah, I'm guessing so, because they said the people call all the time, and apparently they don't do anything about it. So maybe because they're so close, they have, you know, some type of rapport.
This is like I said, I've heard horror stories before. I can only imagine. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she said that a lot of people in prison were in prison for killing patients in the hospital, and that's what our show's about today, in case you just tuned in. I'm talking to someone that had an experience in the hospital, and we're talking about how people badly behave, and this clearly is a situation where a nurse threatened a patient, and not only did she threaten her, she put her hands over her mouth to silence her. And then you said you reported. Did you report the incident to the police? Or did you speak to someone else there at the hospital? Or
I did, because I called back and the police told me that they could not do anything for me. They gave me another number to call, which is like 311. I called that number and I told her, I said, you know, I'm in fear for my life. How do I know, you know, somebody won't come up here? If this lady has put her hands over my mouth, you know, how do I know that they won't, you know, try to retaliate? She told me if I felt that uncomfortable to check myself out of the hospital and go to another hospital. And
wait a minute. Wait. Are you telling me that she said that if you felt that now you're sick and you're in the emergency room, you've had an incident in the emergency? I'm sorry?
With the IV in my neck.
And she's telling you that if you feel that uncomfortable, that you should leave the hospital and go somewhere else. Now you're sick, so she wants you to check out of the hospital?
Yeah, and mind you, they have a difficult time finding my veins. So if I check out and go to another hospital, it's going to be going through the same procedure, you know what I mean, all over again. But because I felt so uncomfortable, that's just what I did. I checked out of the hospital. Because the police station is right next door, I said to myself, I'm not going to pass this without making a report about this. She just can't keep doing this to people.
Did you make a report? Did you file an incident report?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did the police say?
Well, actually, I was telling him that the guy over there was trying to assist me in finding out who it was, and he was telling me that he really felt like the guy was trying to be of no assistance, because how could he be, you know, the hospital advocate and not know the people in his hospital? You know, saying that they were going to find, you know, I mean, I felt like he was helpful, but to me, it's like there should have been more done. I didn't get an apology. It just was, to me, it kind of scared me just to know that I was that vulnerable. You know, it lets you know that, you know, you really just
well, number one, it lets you know that, you know what I'm saying, when you go into a hospital, you should always, if you can, possibly have someone go with you. Because if this kind of thing is taking place there, I'm sure it's taking place in a lot of other hospitals, and that's a very frightening thought. I am a parent and a grandparent, and I just can't even believe that if one of my children or one of my grandchildren went to the hospital and got that kind of treatment, I think it would just be earth-shattering. Let me ask you, so now, okay, back to, because I'm kind of like the police now, how come the patient advocate could not determine who was the culprit? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's what. And I hadn't even thought about it. I was so messed up. Like I said, I was out of it. When he told me that, I wanted to get to another hospital and get some help.
So you checked out of that hospital and went to another hospital where you felt comfortable?
Yes, I did. And I didn't even check out. I just left. I didn't want to see I didn't want to go to the nurses' station. I didn't want to see anybody. I just felt, that they weren't really doing as much as they said that they could do.
Now, I guess the other...
And they knew that because they called my sister, who I put down as an emergency contact. They called her and called her twice and told her that I was gone, and and they were looking for me, and but to me it's like they realized they were in trouble. And there's also cameras in the room. That's another thing. And the hospital was so apologetic about it, and how many different people that they sent up. You know what I mean? That's how I figured they had saw the camera. She never came up and apologized, but I know that they had to see something, because if it wasn't, it could have been, this is your word against hers. Or maybe somebody else that reported it. Because like I said, there were 2 more people in the room, and it was really unprofessional. And when I looked at the other lady, she just had her head up like, oh my gosh, like she didn't even want to see what was going on. I'm just trying to play this back in my mind.
You went to the hospital. You went to the hospital because you had an illness. You're diabetic. You went to have you were sick. You got to the hospital. She said something to you, put her hands over your mouth, then twisted your arm. Then the patient put her hands over your mouth and did you say she twisted your arm?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the patient advocate person came in. You went over the story with the patient advocate. The patient advocate just said, just at that point, he didn't even call the police and say it was an assault. He just left it like it was.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't even think about it. That's what he should have done. He should have called the police.
Well, let me tell you something. The problem that I'm having here is that had you gone into the hospital, sick or not, and had punched a nurse or punched a doctor, it would have been an assault against you, and you probably would have been arrested in the hospital. So I'm having a tough time trying to put it in my mind that the way it went down, there was no reprimand. I don't understand that. So let me ask you this. So after the patient advocate, did you talk to anyone else at the hospital?
I talked to the emergency room director, and he threw out a couple names. The guy that I said that was in there, I described him. It was an Asian guy. And he said, oh, I know who that is. He said, that's so-and-so. He said, but I'm trying to figure out the other name. And he did call me back not too long ago and told me that, he handled the situation. I don't know how well he did or, if anything. But he seemed like he was trying to be helpful, that he was really concerned. And I was telling him, I can't hold you responsible for somebody else's actions. And he told me, he said, yes, you can. He said, that's my emergency room, and those people work under me. He said, I'm responsible for that, and he is, and he was really apologetic, but he didn't call the cops either, and like I said, I never got an apology. She never came up. But from what I'm guessing, like I said, I'm thinking that they saw the tape, because there are cameras in the room, so if they saw the tape.
So you said you got the emergency director apologized in the course of at the time that this was going on?
Yes.
Okay, so now one thing comes to mind with me. Generally, if I'm wrong, generally, if even at the station here, if someone does something and it's out of line or it's just really, really crazy, if they worked under me, if you came to me and said that a nurse did something, my first reaction would be, listen, Nurse Ratchet is a really good nurse, and we've never had any trouble out of her, and I will look into the situation. Now, the problem that I'm having with this is that you said that he apologized for the people in the emergency room because he is directly responsible because they work under him. And to me, that's an odd stance to take when you don't really know. I'm just saying, you just threw it out there, and then, I mean, you gave him the information, and then he just automatically said, "I apologize." So it tells me one or two things: either he saw the tape of the incident, or either he's either had problems before with this nurse, and someone has reported her actions before. It's got to, because you wouldn't just normally jump up and just your first reaction is to defend your employees. That's your first action, is to defend them until you check out what's going on, and then you come back and say what you said. Now, did he say anything about, because I talked, after I spoke to you, I spoke to someone else that spoke to the director, and that person informed me that, because I started to research this thing and started to try to start talking to people, and what he said to me was that that they were going to do some classes, or they were going to do something at the hospital to ensure that wouldn't happen again. Is that what they told you, or do you have any knowledge of that?
Yeah, he told me something like that too. Something about some classes or something. But to me, it's like classes. This is not high school. This is not something that you're doing to yourself. When you take classes, you know what I mean? To me, class, to put your hand over somebody's mouth and their arm, and to be that comfortable doing it, says to me that you've done it before, and a class, you just don't need to be in that position. To me, that's assault.
So she just basically got off with a slap on the wrist. Basically. Is that what because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like she just basically got off with a slap on the wrist, and everything went back to normal. You went to another hospital, got treatment at another hospital, and left there, and still, I'm not even here. So what was the nurse's name? Do you even know her name?
I'm not sure. I want to say her name was Marcy. I'm not for certain, but that was one of the names that the hospital director threw out to me. And then when my boyfriend at the time, when he came back and I was describing the lady to him, he said, "Yeah, that's the same one." He said, "So that probably is her name," because I was describing it to the director, and he threw out a couple names, but he wasn't sure. And then when I was describing her to my boyfriend at the time, he said, "Yeah, that's probably her name then, because that's what she looked like." So,
I mean, how many nurses are in the emergency room? I mean, you pretty much know your emergency staff,
especially between 1 and 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. You pretty much know your staff, and you know who's on at that time. And then you said an Asian guy, which means that you kind of narrowed it down. So he really could.
He has long black hair. I mean, hair down his back. So he automatically knew who that was.
Well, he could have actually gone to the Asian guy and said to him, "Listen, you witnessed something today, or this morning, and who was?" So it wasn't a problem really tracking the nurse down. And so, with all of that being said, the bottom line is that they're going to take training classes.
Yeah. You said,
okay.
I'm sorry. Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
So the bottom line, out of the whole incident, the bottom line is that he's going to initiate training classes for his employees in emergency. Just the ones in emergency. Never mind the ones that are on the other floors that are probably doing God knows what. Yeah. Okay. So.
And I imagine if I was like that and I was coherent, I mean, because there's a lot of times I'm in there and they might have me on medication or something, and I'm not, all there. What do they do to you then?
It's really frightening. I have heard of women getting molested in the hospital. I have heard of all different things. I've heard of people getting killed in the hospital. I've heard of people getting assaulted in the hospital. And I guess what is the name of this hospital again?
It's North Vista, North Las Vegas, North Vista
North
Hospital.
Vista Hospital, and you were just visiting. So
Yeah.
in your visiting, you happened to stumble upon, wow, wow. So,
Yeah.
and then the police department, which is North Las Vegas Police Department,
Yes.
and their stance on it was, so you had to actually leave the hospital and go to the police department?
Yes, I did.
So the police department never came there and took your report?
And they're only 3 minutes. They're not even 3 minutes away. I was able to leave out of the hospital and they're not even 20 feet. They're right next door.
My word. You know what? This is amazing to me. It's amazing the things that go on and the things that people do and actually get away with. And then when something major happens, then everyone looks around like, I just couldn't figure it out. But there are always these little warning signs. There's always these little bitty things like we're talking about now. Now sometime in the near future, if we find that Nurse Ratched killed 10 or 15 people and they finally catch her, we'll go back to this incident that no one even thought about, or everybody just felt like, well, we'll just do. So in other words, it's over with. They just squashed it. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make sure that this tape of this show gets directly to the director of North Las Vegas Hospital, and I'm also going to do some research and find out who supports or who donates to that hospital, because I think that they really need to know what they are giving their money to if they're donating money to a hospital, because most hospitals, they rely totally, most of their money comes from individuals. And those individuals donate money to hospitals because they feel like if something should happen to them or a loved one or a friend of a loved one or a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, that they're going to get treated with respect and get treated fairly, and also get the medical attention that they need and deserve. And I don't see that happening here. I see here with this incident, and I'm sure that there probably are other people that have reported incidents. I did hear you say something about the police said that that they get calls all the time.
Yeah. That's what they said.
And listen, you know what? I know you have a musical background, and while I have you on the phone here, can I quickly, because we're talking about people behaving badly, just give me a brief summation of what do you think about the Kanye West thing?
I really think that it was really distasteful. I mean, to walk up there, I mean, people have, their own opinions, and America, they gave it to her, regardless of what he felt or what he thought. You know what I mean? That was her moment, and it was really tasteful and tacky. I mean, if that had been Jigga up there, if they had gave Jay-Z the video, the award that they were giving her, when he had walked up there and grabbed the mic from Jay-Z's hand and told him the same thing he told her, I feel like Beyonce had the best video. He did that to her because she was a child. She was a child, and he felt like he could do that. I mean, that's just a really cocky attitude to have. I mean, what next? But, what can you expect from somebody who cried because he didn't, the last time he didn't win his award, he cried. So what can you expect? He's a big old kid.
Okay, but now, would you agree, and this is just a question, would you agree that, because you're in that industry too, would you agree that, when you get into this industry that it's cutthroat and that you're going to run across all kind of just, unscrupulous people?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in a sense, and I hate to, say, it was distasteful what he did, but I feel him because I'm tired of seeing people win different awards. I feel like they shouldn't have gotten. But then again, like I said, it's I only feel that way, and I am not the whole world. The majority of the world felt like that's what, or the people that voted or however, it goes. They felt like she should have won, and she did, and it wasn't up to him to do that. He makes a lot of music sometimes that I don't feel either. What if somebody would have came up there and did that to him? He would have been, oh my gosh, he would have been a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, he gets stuff all the time, and there's different songs that go platinum, and I'm like, oh gosh, how did that make it? But nobody, you know, can't do that.
Yeah,
Jay-Z or Rick Ross or one of those big, you know, a big time rapper and not a country star, you know, Caucasian girl. She was backstage crying with her mother.
wow.
You know, if it had been somebody else, there's no doubt in my mind he wouldn't have did that. If that had been Jay-Z or Nas or somebody else, he wouldn't have done that.
So you think he just kind of punked her because she was a girl, and he didn't? And if it had been a man, he never would have punked her.
Of course. What if it was Jigga? What if it was Jay-Z?
Yeah. Okay. I was curious to know your take. I know that when we talked earlier, I know you do have a background in the industry, so I thought that I would just ask that question. But really, thank you very, very much for sharing. I am going to, like I said, I'm going to send a copy. Someone will get your name, and I'm going to send a copy of this to you, and also I'm going to send a copy to Vista North Las Vegas Hospital there, and to the police department there. A lot of times, not that I'm an advocate, but a lot of times when things go wrong out there, sometimes they need to know that there are people on television that also share the same view that you and I share and others share. And so sometimes when we put that information out there across, we might even get other people that have been done wrong. The same incident, maybe a different hospital. But it's always important for people to know that they can call and they can share what is going on in their life and what's going on. And if it's wrong, we need to address it. Somebody needs to be accountable, and that's what I'm here for. Thank you very much for calling in. I wish you all the best, and I just really hope that everything works out for you. And thank you again for calling.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
And you do the same.
Bye-bye.
Listen, anytime that someone that's in a position of authority and respect disrespects you, and especially if you're incapacitated, if you come in and clearly she said that, you know, she came in and she was sick, anyone that takes advantage of a sick person has a sick mind. It's not a hard thing to be mean to someone that can defend themselves. Again, it is another thing to be mean and to mistreat someone that is helpless. So in the interim of all of that, if indeed something should come up, if this should happen to you or a loved one or either a friend of a friend of a friend, please, write me, call me, and we'll look into it. We will address that thing. We will talk about it. We'll put it on television and they'll see it. Listen, I'm Rick the Critic. I had a great time. Thank you again for allowing me to come into your home and share. Good night. See you next week.
You best not forget it. She gon' tell you how it is, cause she's Rick the Critic. When she all up in your video, you best not forget it. Let you know if she like it, and if she get with it, let the whole world know and be the first to admit it. Let you know if she's good and if she dig it, cause she's Rick the Critic. Rick the Critic, Rick the Critic, Rick the Critic. She the first to admit it if she can't dig it, cause she's Rick the Critic, 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 Rick the Critic.